Hello, Felix from Nintendo Life here, and today we're here to talk about the Mario Kart Wave 2 DLC, and I'm not here alone to talk about it because I have the wonderful Mr. Alex with me.
Wave 2, baby!
And I think it's safe to say after playing these courses that we were wrong. We made a video talking like how this looks good, not great. I would say it's the other way around. It looks great, not good. And, you know, I wasn't as wrong, but Alex, you were really wrong about Wave 2. So, yeah, tell us about your experience.
Yeah, I was, I think I was still justified in my skepticism after Wave 1. But no, I'm happy to say that I was wrong. I really am, because I never want things to be bad. And when we actually, got down, we played these through. I was genuinely really pleased. I feel that this is a lot stronger than Wave 1.
Oh, yeah. It almost feels like they've listened to all the critique, or maybe it's just I'm looking everything through a new pair of glasses or something, but it just felt so much better than Wave 1.
Yeah, I think the selection of tracks is just a little bit more varied, but at the same time more consistent. I still don't think it's perfect. I've got some little nitpicks here and there, but overall, I would say, Wave 1 was good. Wave 2 is great. Like, I'm really pleased with it. I think Nintendo's promotion of it was a little bit reserved. They could have been a little bit more sort of pushing on, they could have pushed some of the new things a little bit more, which we'll get on to. But at the same time, it's nice to be surprised.
Yeah, I definitely liked that they didn't show their full sets of cards off the get-go, because we'll get to that after, but Calamari Desert, they changed that up massively.
Spoilers!
Okay. So before we get into that, I think we should just go through each course and give our feelings about it, because overall, I mean, at least for my sake, there isn't really a track I don't like. So yeah. Let's start with the Turn-Up Cup, because we have some really great tracks here. We have, first off, New York Minutes. And wow, the music is great in this track. And the visuals also, they look great. It's like it has just rained and you drive through a park and there's different paths, just like Paris Promenade and Tokyo Blur.
Yeah, I really like New York Minute as well. The aesthetic's really good. It's a very tight course, particularly on 200, which is what I prefer to play. It's very challenging, although I do have some reservations. It's just one thing.
Yeah,
that's that the edges of the course are too busy.
Yeah,
there's too many obstacles and things like that, to the point that if you do go off the course even a little bit too much and hit one of these things, Lakitu will pick you up, which feels like it feels like a solution to a problem that shouldn't be there. Like, if you look at the other city tracks, things like Paris Promenade, they've cordoned things off. It makes it much more like a racetrack. Mm-hmm. And I understand it makes it more immersive to have these obstacles and things there, but I think they've gone a little bit too far in that direction. It sort of slightly hampers the feel of the course for me. It just makes it a little bit bitty.
Yeah, I mean, I myself did not experience that. Maybe it's because I don't go off the track. Get good, Alex. But
you cheeky sod.
No, but I just really like that there's a lot of different stuff. Because I felt, at least with Wave 1, it was very simplistic. There was I felt a lot of the stuff was bare minimum. The bushes from Paris Promenade, again, it doesn't really matter, the graphical aspect, but I just really like that it just feels like they've put more effort to decorating these courses. And can we talk about the last lap in New York Minute? You go through this hotel corridor into a parking lot and go back. That's right
pretty
up.
Cool,
That's
yeah.
Brilliant, and it also just looks fantastic.
It does. It's very busy visually, it's quite noisy visually, but it's trying to imitate New York. That's kind of the whole thing. If you were to make it a little bit more simplistic, it wouldn't be replicating New York, So it works.
But let's move on to the second track in the Turn-Up Cup, which is Mario Circuit 3, and probably a lot of people's maybe least favorite, but I must say, I didn't find it as bad as I initially thought it would be.
think it actually might be one of my favorites from Wave. This is the thing that surprised me the most was Mario Circuit 3, because I was just like, oh god, it's just from the SNES games. But it is, the corners are so tight from a purely racing point of view. Like, aesthetics, I'm not entirely sold on it, but from a racing point of view and gameplay, I think it's such a solid track. It's very simple, but it kind of leans into that. And you've got this cruel hairpin at one point, and at 200cc, that is really, really tough. But there's a little bit of apex that just kind of coerces you back onto the track if you cut it. I mean, if you go too wide, you're going to go off the course. But if you're just on the edge, that little bit of apex just gives you that little bit of leeway. And that just shows real care and attention to detail. And so, yeah, this is actually, to play, one of my favorite courses. It's just fast. It's simple, and it's kind of unforgiving at the same time.
You can never go wrong with
It's a good bit of music, that. But what did you think about the aesthetics?
So I like that they added some stuff around the course. You know, there was like these blocks, and it just felt very retro. The sand, or like what it was on the side, was a bit simplistic, but I can get over that because I think after Wave 1, I've just come to accept the graphical standpoint, and I don't really find it an issue anymore. I mean, sure, it doesn't look as great as the main game, but yeah, I played, I don't know if, because it felt similar, but it didn't feel like the same track. I don't know if it's Mario Circuit 3 or if it's one of the other Mario circuits. But I played the one in DS. The song is the same, but I felt the layout was different, and it's... Now people are going to go in the comments and say, oh, Felix, of course it's not the same. I haven't looked it up.
That's Mario Circuit 7. They did have loads of, like, arguably repeat courses in the original Super Mario Kart. Probably due to limitations.
But anyway, I like the track. It's a bit simplistic, but I feel like Mario Circuit 3 is the biggest redemption arc from all these courses, at least from our first, initial preview.
I agree. Although visually, I feel like they're sort of leaning into the original and the SNES side of things, which is a good idea, but I feel like they could have lent into it a little bit more. You know, like you look at something like Excite Bike Arena, and that is that really leans into Excite Bike stuff, and it makes it really feel like it.
Yeah, it's like stuck in between.
I feel like they could have done a little bit more in that sense and made it a little bit more snazzy overall. At the moment, it feels like it's not entirely sort of sitting on the fence, but just a bit, you know? It's not on one side or the other. It's just sort of leaning.
I like the word snazzy. I think I'm going to use that more.
Snazzy.
Okay, but going from Mario Circuit 3, we have Calamari Desert.
Whoa!
I was already excited for this course, but they changed it up.
They did, and I'm really pleased that they were so bold as to change something. Like, this is a classic track. And when they showed it in the initial trailer, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I like Calamari Desert. And before I'd even finished that thought, they moved on to another one. And I can see why now. They wanted to keep it a secret. But yeah, they really mixed things up. And shall I say it, or do you want to say it?
Ramp.
You go on the blinking train tracks, baby.
So, yeah, the first round is basically just your normal Calamari Desert round. But the second round, suddenly there's this giant ramp, and you can go off that. Oh, no, you have to go off that, sorry. You go on the train tracks with the train going in the opposite direction, so you have to watch out for the train. Then you go into this tunnel, which before, if you went in there with a star or something, there was a shortcut. But yeah, now you go through the tunnel, and just before you go into inside that tunnel, that's the third lap. So you go around with the train tracks and then come back to the main course, and then you finish up, which is just really creative. Just overall really pleased with what they changed up, and knowing that, what might they also change up in the future? We might not know, and we will see.
I really like this one as well. Yeah, I think it was a really bold move to change it up so much, as I've already said, but I think it absolutely pays off. It turns what was still a good course, but very kind of its time. It was quite slow and long. I mean, that made more sense back in Mario Kart 64. but, sort of they've changed it so that it's still kind of long, unless you're playing at 200cc, in which case no course is long. But the end result is it just adds that little extra wrinkle and it makes it a little bit more interesting. Sometimes it can be a bit tough to get onto the train tracks if you're playing 200cc and not hit the train, but, it's still a great time. It's a wonderful little wrinkle that they've added in, and visually, yeah, it's pretty good. I think that maybe they could have made it a little bit more sort of detailed still, but I feel that about all the courses. And the music is great. They've really leaned into the aesthetic.
Why have I been doing the Waluigi impression all this time?
You just love doing them.
Waluigi is here to stay because Waluigi Pinball is awesome, at least in my book.
It is.
The visuals look really great. They have a lot of neon colors, very saturated, and they even brought back the sound effects.
They did.
Not all of them, but it's just that they brought back the sound effects for like the items and the new laps. That's just attention to detail, and I really thought they wouldn't bring those over.
Yeah, same. I just assumed, that's, kind of a detail of the past. But no, they went all out and they brought those back in. It's the sort of thing that isn't difficult to do, obviously, but, it just shows a level of care and attention that we want from these courses.
We brought up an interesting point that, imagine this track with anti-grav. That would just be so cool. I think...
Yeah.
I wish this track was, fully remastered, but either way, it's a really good remaster because it's the first time we've really been able to play this track in, HD, full scale. And I think it lives up to the hype. It's a good course.
Yeah, I do wish that they did a little bit more with it, as you say. I kind of wish they'd done something more akin to Electrodrome in terms of have the split paths and things like that. That would be perfect for pinball. Just something, they've changed Calamari Desert so much. I feel like they could have done it with this, but at the same time, it is still a really good course. It just it smells slightly of missed opportunity in some areas, but in other areas, it's great.
So what I meant at the start that they didn't have all the sound effects. I saw something on Twitter that they forgot. They didn't forget because they just didn't include it. But when you enter the hallway after the pinball section, there's this sound effect in the original game, and it also is in the intro cutscene. You hear that sound effect, but it isn't in the game. So maybe it's something they patch in later down the road because...
We wouldn't necessarily assume that if they hadn't already showed their hand about Wave 1.
Yeah, and just before we go into the Propeller Cup, they have added some patch notes, which I would like to go through. Okay, so first off, I think a lot of people have already seen this, but the Shy Guys now move in their cars. Wow.
In Coconut Mall, just to clarify.
Not in every track. Imagine.
No. That would be great, wouldn't it? Just Shy Guys just everywhere in cars. It
was one of my biggest complaints that the cars were just there, so I'm glad that they listened. That's just really bizarre that they went back, but it also gives me hope that they actually go back and listen to some feedback. I really like that.
Yeah, I get the feeling that maybe it was always intentionally meant to be that way, because I don't know, it sort of looks like it's too specific a thing and too sort of substantial a thing. It makes so much sense, how it is now. It's kind of perfect. It's not exactly the same as before, but the fact that the donuts and stuff just works really well. It's a good reimagining of it, and I don't know, I just sort of feel like maybe it wasn't working for whatever reason, and so they basically just turned it off for the initial wave, and they were like, we'll sort it out later. But I don't know, maybe the initial wave was, I don't want to say rushed, but hurried?
It was a bit hurried, at least then we got a big gap between Wave 1 and Wave 2, I feel. And it feels like they've been perfecting the craft a bit, and that's also why I think Wave 2 just feels better than Wave 1.
It does, yeah.
But the Shy Guys in cars is not the only thing they've added. They've also added some minor graphical details. For example, when you drive on Choco Mountain, you can now see some chocolate on your wheels or dirt or whatever it is, It wasn't there before.
Chocolate dirt!
Yeah, I saw a lot of people talk about that on Twitter, and a lot of people are just, that's neat. Yeah, it is neat, but
it is neat, yeah. And I'm so sure that they have desaturated Choco Mountain, because I've been looking back over my old footage and it looks so much more saturated on that, but I can't say for certain because I can't, like, capture cards. I'm using a different capture card now, and so I can't say for absolute certainty because they will all have slightly different values when it comes to things like saturation. I've got no way to prove it, and I even tried booting up my old Switch because I thought maybe it had just Wave 1 on there. It didn't even have Wave 1 on there. But I've got no way to prove it, but I'm certain they've desaturated some of the old Wave 1 courses.
I mean, the courses in Wave 2 some of them are really saturated, and I especially noticed this when playing on my OLED. I'm not sure if they've desaturated Wave 1. Maybe someone down in the comments can let us know what they thought. Maybe it's just Alex with his conspiracy hat on. I really don't know, because, I just have no idea. Last thing they added, or the last patch note, is that items and coins now spawn faster just in the game in general. Yeah,
which is quite a sort of surprising thing to add at this late stage, but it is kind of annoying when you're driving around and you're just behind someone and they get the double box in front of you and you're like, and you try and steer to get a different box so you don't do it in time, and you don't end up with an item, and suddenly you're in 8th. know. So I'm not against this change. I think it's all right.
I like the change just because, items can be a bit too much sometimes, but like if you're driving just behind a big pack and they all get all the items or something, then you're left with nothing. But with the new change, you're much more likely to actually get items, which is just more fair all around.
Which probably explains where I feel like I've been hit by more items since this update.
That might be right. A lot of blue shells.
Because when we were playing it, I was like, I swear I'm getting hit by more items. And you were just like, oh, old man, let's take you to bed. So I feel vindicated.
That's great. Okay, so now we have the patch notes out of the way. Let's move on to Propeller Cup, which is the second cup here in the DLC Wave 2. And we have 4 exciting tracks to talk about, and one of them, well, the first one is Sydney Sprint. Tell us about it, Alex.
Mixed feelings from me. It's overall, I like it. It's still positive, don't get me wrong, but I feel that I just sort of... I don't quite know what it is. I feel like the course is maybe a little bit too busy in some areas visually. It's not always super clear until you know the course where you're supposed to go. I know there are arrows and stuff, but sometimes I think it's just something to do with like the curve of the courses, sort of on the Z-axis. Just makes it a little bit difficult to see at times. It's very minor and overall mostly forgivable, but... yeah, I still like the course. It can be a bit tight in places. Sometimes there's always one corner that I fluff up, and that's a me problem, but still. But overall, I would still say, I definitely like this course, but I don't love it.
I really like this course. I think it has a lot going on. I love that the 3 laps are very different, and it's just something
nice.
I've loved. They've done a lot of that in the DLC courses, As soon as you see those big arrows, you just know, okay, this is going to be a course with different laps because, the arrows change from, game to game. And we start off driving through the Opera House and driving through some stuff that looks a bit like Tokyo Blur, which, that's cool. Suddenly you're driving the other way, you're driving through a boat, you're driving through some grass fields, you're driving down at the ports. There's just so much different stuff. It's so varied, and it has probably the best soundtrack of this DLC wave. Wow, is it a good song. I just really like the setting, because some of the city courses, especially Tokyo Blur, I wasn't the biggest fan of, but this just seems like Tokyo Blur on steroids. It's just so much going on, and it's just really fun to drive on. Yeah, I'm a big fan. There's one thing that's a bit jarring, and that's the fans inside the Opera House, which is just 2D cutouts, and those normally work perfectly fine when it's seen long distance, but you're driving just beside them. It looks really jarring, and you can just clearly see that they're 2D cutouts at like 5 frames per second. Yeah, I don't know. It just looks a bit weird that they put them there when you're going to see them that close, but that's my only nitpick with the course. I really like it, and more city tracks, please.
I hadn't noticed the fans thing, actually, and that's usually the sort of thing that I pick up on irritatingly quickly, and it can spoil things for me.
Going from Australia, let's go to the North Pole. It's Snowland. I don't know if it's in the North Pole. It just sounded cool. Snowland from the Game Boy Advance. Yeah, it's a slippery course. It's very, very beautiful course. It's a Game Boy track, so they've done a lot to it. They've added like heights and stuff. Like instead of Mario Circuit 3, which is basically just a flat track, this has some different stuff going on, even though it's a Game Boy track. And I really like the slippery aspect. It's a whole different experience to drive around, and the penguins look really good driving around, and I can't really remember the song. Maybe it wasn't that memorable, but it was all right.
Yeah, I really like this course as well, more than I thought I would. The slipperiness aspect, you immediately think, oh god, I hate slippery courses, and I would argue, yeah, I would say that would be a bad thing if the whole course wasn't consistently slippery. So just for a single race, you just have to sort of like rethink your turning and stuff like that. So it kind of works. I mean, there may well be some people out there for whom it doesn't work, but for me, I'm like, yeah, I can actually get along with this. And aesthetically, it's very pleasing. It's quite a sort of a short track, which is, I don't think a bad thing. Sometimes it's good to have some long and some short. It's just kind of nice to have a simple course as well, among all the differences. I love it when they do crazy stuff and they do different things, but sometimes just a good old racing course is also nice to have, and that's what we've got here.
I generally really like snow courses. I remember last video we talked and Kate was like, there's no good snow courses, and DK Summit, hello? What? No, but this is one of the greatest snow tracks. There is some bad snow tracks, and I really like seeing the snowman back. I know he originated from Mario 64, but I remember him from Mario DS, and it's just a nice little snowman, which I've dearly missed. Good to have you back.
He's a good boy.
But next up, we have probably my favorite course.
Oh, we don't have to talk about this one.
It's Mushroom Gorge! Woohoo! And to me, it lives up to expectations. It's what we had on Wii, but with a few new changes, like a blue mushroom. I'm sorry, in the last video I said they were changing up. I did not know they had changed in Mario 3DS to a blue mushroom to like make a flight section. But I am now one blue mushroom richer in knowledge, so that's good to know. And I actually really like the change, because it just gives it that extra spice to, like, you have 3 different paths to follow, so you can take one different one each game.
Each lap.
After I said that, I was like, something was wrong there.
Yeah, I like this course as well. Again, it's kind of a short one, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think there's definitely some sort of like forced momentum in the underground section, which it feels a little bit strange at first, but I don't think it's a bad thing, because it means that you're less likely to fall off unless, I mean, if you royally screw up, you're still going to fall off. But like, if you get hit by a shell and you're near an edge, I've noticed that you maintain more momentum than you would do normally, and I think that's a nice little sort of tweak to the physics, just to make things a little bit more forgiving in what is otherwise a very bouncy area.
I think I was very worried about was that in 200cc it just wouldn't be adjusted and you would just like fly too long and fall in between the mushrooms. No, that wasn't the case. You were still on the mushrooms, and that was just great. So I really like the maybe forced momentum, but it just made that I never fell off the like course because I fell in between mushrooms.
Yeah.
And that was the most important thing. I also really like that they brought back the mushroom shortcut just before like the wooden bridge, which was gone in Mario Kart 7 and Mario Kart Tour. Yeah, I tried it out, and it's a really fun shortcut that I didn't know was in the original Wii track because I was 10-year-old and really bad at the game. Also, they kept the mushroom shortcut at the end of the track, like there's like this corner, and in the original Wii track you could like use a mushroom to like cut that shortcut, and you can still do that, which is great because in Mario Kart 8, Lucky 2 picks you up a lot. Like it's a very anti-shortcut friendly game, unless the game actually wants you to do those shortcuts. So that's just great that they kept it in there, that shortcut now, that Lucky 2 doesn't, put you back on the track. So yeah. All around, a really nice reimagination of this track, and man, the music, woohoo.
It's a good bit of plinky plonk.
But yeah, that leaves us at the last track of this whole Wave 2, but also the first track they showed off, and that is the quote-unquote new track, which is also coming to Mario Kart Tour later. It's Sky High Sunday. Wow.
Yeah, not so wow for me. I genuinely feel that this is unfortunately the weakest track in the Wave.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I like the concept of what they were trying to do. Like, it's all anti-grav and stuff, which is kind of fun. I like the anti-grav when it's used. But it sort of feels a little bit... it's incredibly linear. There's only one, I think, arguably alternate path. I mean, it forks at one point, but they're both identical. It's symmetrical. And then you can go on the upper level or the lower level. And that is it. Every single other bit is the same. Apart, I suppose you could argue you can go through an ice cream and get some items, but everyone's going to go through the ice cream at the start because that's where the items are. It just sort of feels like, hey, it's just floating in the sky. It doesn't provide any sort of context for it, which I know not every Mario Kart 8 Deluxe track does, but generally they try and provide a kind of like groundedness to things, even if it is within Mario's own sort of own rules. Like, hey, you're riding on clouds in the sky. Well, Mario runs on clouds in the game. That makes sense. But here, it's just like ice cream floating. Wah!
We are talking about Mario Kart, and sometimes they race in really wacky places. I don't think we're going to expect them to, like, be grounded in reality with this one.
Yeah. I could forgive it if it was really, like, a really good course, and it was kind of like, well, it doesn't make any sort of, like, sense within the rules, but it's really fun to race around. But it's just fine.
Yeah, I think the track is all right. It's not my favorite. It's not my least favorite. It's right there in the middle, because it's nice to race on something completely new. I think the visuals look all right. There is a place, like, just before you go into some, like, I don't know, you take a turn and then you drop onto some ramps and stuff, and the camera is just very slow to follow, which I thought was a bit weird.
Yeah, it's nearly always pointing up a bit too much. When you know the course, it's okay. But the first time you go around, you're like, oh my god, am I going to land on something, or am I just going to fall off the edge? And that's not good.
I hope they patch it out in a future update. Maybe it's just like they didn't realize it was a problem. I hope some people speak about it, and it'll be a thing like the moving cars in Shy Guy or the dirt in Choco Mountain. Maybe it's a thing they just didn't realize, and then they could just patch it in when Wave 3 arrives. But Alex, I know you have well, you talked about it yesterday. You had like a tiny problem with the staircase.
Yeah, the staircase. This is a nitpick again, but the staircase is fine. Sort of. It's not the fact that you're driving up a staircase. I don't care about that. That happens all the time in Mario Kart. But the fact that they've got handrails in the middle, and you sort of think, okay, they're an obstacle, but they're not. They actually give you a boost, which doesn't make, like, if they were sort of like stylized, or it was like posts or something, like some swirly sort of like ice cream, glowing blue ice cream things or something, like the posts in the other anti-grav sections in the game, we'd know, okay, yeah, you can hit those, but it's a handrail. It's not animated, so you assume it's a hazard, but it's not. It's actually a boost. And if it was a hazard, and maybe it originally was meant to be a hazard, I could understand why they would change their minds about that, because slap bang in the middle, you're quite easily going to get caught in between the handrail, in between the posts and stuff. But just take it out or replace it with posts like that. I just sort of feel like it's visually, it goes against everything else in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
It's a very weird choice to suddenly just have those be like the tiny boosts that normally are like visualized in a special way.
Yeah.
And maybe they just didn't have time to change it. Maybe it was like you say, it was a hazard and then they realized too late that, oh, this doesn't work, let's just change it up. And we still want it in there, so we'll just change it to something else. I personally don't mind it. It's a minor nitpick, like you say. It's just weird. But
yeah, it goes against like so many other things that we've seen in this wave, like real attention to detail and real care and thought, and then handrail. It makes you go faster. It just, I don't know, it's just not conducive to everything else. It's disappointing to me.
Well, there you have it. I didn't expect Mario Circuit 3 to get more praise than Sky High Sunday, but here we are. Let us know what you thought of these tracks. Did you like Wave 1 best, or is Wave 2 the champion? Yeah, let us know down in the comments below. And if you like this video, why don't you drift into that subscribe button that looks suspiciously like a handrail? And don't forget to check out our website, nintendolife.com, for all sorts of Nintendo-related content. Stay safe, play some Mario Kart DLC Wave 2. Felix from Nintendo Life here, out.
Wave 1, 7 out of 10. Wave 2, 8 out of 10. Make 3 a 9.